Are you a proponent of the multi-universes theory? Do you believe that there are many, many universes, and that even if this one fades out, that there's other ones that are starting fresh right now, and there's an infinite number of them, and they're just constantly in this never-ending cycle of birth and death?
I think most likely this is just about probability. There are many, many simulations. These simulations are, we might as well call them reality, or you could call them multiverse.
These simulations, you believe, are created? Like someone has manufactured?
They're running on the substrate.
So
that substrate is probably boring.
Boring.
Alright, so the article goes forward. Could the universe be a simulation? As I've said, I have a lot of issues with this idea of the simulation, especially in sites like this, like Big Thing. They like to use the word simulation. I use it sometimes to kind of make a point, because this is how people are understanding it right now, because all of the technology focused culture that we have right now. We have this idea of simulation. What exactly are we simulating? We're not simulating anything. It's a virtual reality, if at all, if we want to call it that, if we want to think about bits of information in a computer. In reality, it's just data. Whatever you want to talk about it. So could an artificially intelligent entity without consciousness be dreaming up the world? So this is the consensus, and this is the underlying idea of the simulation. It's more of a cold rendering. It's more of a cold idea of this is just simply bits of information which are happening from a non-conscious entity or computer somewhere in the universe or something like that. This is removing the God equation and thinking more into sci-fi AI technology sort of deal. This is the underlying idea of the simulation. So they asked Robert Lanza this, and Robert Lanza says biology plays an important role. He denies the idea of the simulation. He denies the idea of the non-conscious artificial intelligence or something of that nature. He's saying while a bot could conceivably be an observer, going again into the argument of the device or the instrument, or the mechanic instrument measuring the experiment, the quantum measurement, Lanza thinks a conscious living entity, which is the actual observer, the actual scientist, who even conceives the device in the first place, who conceives the mechanical instrument used to produce the quantum measurement, this conscious living entity is necessary, with the capacity for memory is necessary to establish the arrow of time. A quote-unquote brainless observer does not experience time and or decoherence with any degree of freedom. So we're talking about this. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. Biases. And I got into an argument not so long ago from one of my Reddit posts where someone says, like, because I make this argument, this is going to be my next book, that consciousness is not in the brain, it's not tethered to the brain. So he mentioned, well, I don't know about any conscious being without a brain. And I replied, what about the jellyfish? What about bacteria? Are they not conscious? Bacteria has been proved to have memory. This is why I pulled it up just a few minutes ago. We're going through some of the random research that I have in my list. So if there's memory, does that mean intelligence? Does that mean consciousness? Are trees not conscious? We know that plants are alive. We know that jellyfish are alive. And they do not have a nervous system. They do not have brains. So why do we think that humans generate consciousness from our brains when they are living things which have no brains and no nervous system? So this is the whole argument that is being put forward here. We can only say for sure that a conscious observer does indeed collapse a quantum wave function, and this is what all of the science is proving, and this is what I'm doing in this channel. So this is actually one of the hardest pieces of research that I've encountered so far. I usually have a good idea, like I'm no expert, I'm not a scientist, I'm a researcher. I look into the science of others and I am cataloging and putting it forward in my channel and in my writings. I am not a scientist, but I do have I would say a decent understanding on quantum physics and some other things. But now this one goes into astrophysics and cosmology, which is a little bit more complicated, astroparticle physics. So this one was published in the Journal of Cosmology and Astroparticle Physics. Parisisolas like dimensional reduction of quantum gravity in the presence of observers. So it goes into quantum gravity. So basically what they some of the things that they were looking into is the space-time theme. The general relativity is a little bit more complex. It's not the particle shooting through a gun. They're talking about more cosmological space-time variables. So it's quite complex, and I'm just gonna go into a little bit of the meat of the experiment, which is complex, but I'm gonna link it below, so anybody who wants to really go into this, you can go. So it's actually in this one where I think it's a little bit more clear what they're doing. We deem these observations generally interesting also because the described setup, quantum gravity with disorder, represents a rare case in theoretical physics when the presence of observers drastically change behavior of the observable quantities themselves, not only at microscopic scales, but also in the infrared limit at very large spatio-temporal scale. So what they're saying here is that all of these mathematics, which are based on theories, which are written, they are results, they change the behavior of observable quantities when there is this network of observers. So when all these observers, these scientists, this consciousness are all looking at the same things that are in the basic theories, in the basic mathematics, they change depending on the observers. So, and these mathematics have to do with general relativity, with the basics and the constants of gravity, of space-time, and so on and so forth. So if the basic mathematics that we have attached to space-time reality, with our 3D physical material reality, can be switched, at least in theory, at least in the algorithms that they are running forward, with the presence of these different observers, it means that the basic mathematics of general relativity, of space-time continuum, are not set in stone, and they are changed by this very important variable, which are the observers, or the network of observers, or consciousness through it. So what are we saying right here is that our physical reality only exists because we all agree upon it. It's a consensus reality. So when William Bullman again says that there are consensus realities in the afterlife, which is less dense, is less physical than the material world that we live in now, which does not have all of these mathematics and all of these structured things about the general relativity and space-time continuum. When all of this does not exist, then we can truly create our own heavens and our own hells. We call them that, but they are basically our own realities. So if you go into the whole literature of it, even when you go into the UFO and the alien theories, the aliens are telling people you are a consciousness that creates realities. It creates specific realms, and you come and incarnate into the bodies. This is what's in the out there in the literature. You may believe it, you may think it's science fiction, but then you have the psychedelic reports which say the same, and then you have the near-death experiences who say the same, and then you have the Monroe Institute who, through science and through very specific methods, they achieve these states of non-physicality, of going past these very mathematics, this very strict physical reality where we have all these constants, these mathematics. When they go beyond that, they meet entities who tell them, you are creating your own reality. The reality is not really as hard as it seems. And then you have this government agency report on how it says everything is a hologram, the reality is not real. And then you have all of the science that I've just gone through, the observer effect and Wigner's friend and so on and so forth, saying the same thing. So don't believe me, go through the actual thing. If you want the actual mathematics, it's all right here. This is just the basic idea of the research. If you go through the whole thing, they go deep into it. So Robert Lanza, Robert Lanza and his colleagues from Russia, what they're saying here is that go through the mathematics. It's all right here. If you don't want to accept it, if you're gonna be a dogmatist, materialist, go ahead. But then you are wrong until you prove me wrong, and you go through my research, which is publicly available. Then we can have a real conversation about it. So this is amazing. I find this extremely amazing because this is the height of human intelligence. I find it extremely interesting how all of this is being put forward. I have no doubts about it because I've gone through all of this research. I know that reality is not as real as it seems to be, but what they're doing is they are putting it in stone, putting it in science, our modern God, our modern reality, and saying, you cannot deny my theory. So this is it. This is a scientific framework on how our reality is not real and how we can potentially create our own heavens and hells in a much less dense, much less strict frame set of reality. Thank you so much for watching. If you find any value in the content that I'm putting forward, please consider supporting the project through Patreon on the links below. Likewise, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, or follow me on other social media so more people have access to this information. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll see you in the next one.